is really trying. So,
Well,
I mean, that's
trying.
good.
Louisville is trying to, if they get injured too much more, they'll keep doing it.
Yeah, it's true. They're going to be down to like 12 players.
Let's be honest, they're like down half their first string and their coach, and they're still doing good.
Yeah, so we brought that up last night on the show. But because they have a bunch of player coaches, one of them has to like act as the coach, right?
Probably.
So like they really don't have all three of those guys every week.
Or they could just coach from the field.
Yeah, is that a thing? Can you do that?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Because I didn't actually know. Yeah, so that'll be fun. Anyway, let me set a timer.
Yeah, it probably won't be too long, but at least we
For
get our
once in my life.
Everybody except Kevin, who decided not to respond.
I don't know what that is. Although man just got a promotion at work, so I don't know if that's part of it.
Could be. If I spend too much time on this, though, I spend like 5 minutes putting my rankings together, and that's it.
Right? Yeah. All right. Cool.
Actually, completely
Everybody,
forgot
welcome
about Charleston this week.
You forgot about what? About what this week?
I forgot about Charleston. I went through my entire thing like, what the hell? I'm missing a team. I'm like, oh, battery.
Forget about teams.
I got a good sign.
Yeah. Resume. Okay. Hey everyone, welcome to the USL show brought to you by Roughneck Scarves. Check those guys out. Everything you could possibly want out of scarves. Men's and women's national team, USL, MLS, the whole 9 yards. Even do custom stuff for fundraisers or personal use. So roughneckscarves.com. Check all that out. Also brought to you by the Beautiful Game Network podcast, which we are a part of. Imagine that. BGN.FM on the interwebs, at the BGNFM on the Twitter. Yeah, this is a. I'm actually really looking forward to this kind of. It is an Evancast. In that this is an episode of the USL show. We're going to talk about our power rankings that we just filled out earlier this week. I think on Monday we all finished these up, and at our disposal tonight was basically nobody because half the other shows in the network record on Tuesdays. It seems. So joining me, your host Evan Villela, is the other Evan, Pony. Hey, buddy. Welcome to the first ever, potentially last, but probably not, Evancast.
Yeah, we could make some excuse to do one of these in the future.
Probably. Yeah. I think we really should have just for tonight have just called each other Evan just to really confuse people.
Oh yeah, that would everyone for that one.
But I feel like we would be really freaked out because I don't like it enough when there's someone like at a party or something that has the name Evan. Because I always feel obligated to talk to them about life just because we have the same name and I think connected or something. And then B, it's just weird because how often do you run into people with the name Evan? Anyway, to get off of tangents, Pony, East or Western Conference?
Let's go East first. They're at the top of the spreadsheet.
Let's go East first. It's probably a little more to talk about. Yeah, so way this works, all of us except for Kevin this month did not filled out picks. We throw together an aggregate and we are here to talk about it. Pony, are those numbers next to the aggregate? Is that total points that we're projecting?
That's total points we voted them for. That's how we're.
Oh, okay. That's like the okay.
A big gap between this.
Because I mean, I couldn't believe 4 for Toronto FC2 was an actual possibility.
They're not that bad.
Anyway, we'll go in groups of 3, I suppose, starting at the bottom of the East. No changes here. 16th Toronto FC 2, 15th Atlanta United 2, 14th Richmond. They were bad last month. They have been bad pretty much the whole season, and they are still bad.
Yeah, I mean, I think Richmond, if anyone could get out of this group, but Atlanta and Toronto just look bad.
Yep. Yeah. Toronto moving down to D3 next year, which is fine.
Pro rel.
a little strange to announce that when they did, but I mean, I don't think anyone was necessarily batting an eye at it when it happened, if I'm honest. So, um, yeah, listen, I don't, I think Richmond can get out of there, but I don't know if I think they can jump any of the teams above them. I mean, I guess anything's possible, but this seems to be pretty set. I think the bottom of the table in the East and the top of the table in the East is pretty much squared away in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, that's pretty much the case. It's just that who's going to finish in the middle and in what order.
Yeah. Moving up, tied for 12th, North Carolina and Ottawa, and then 11th, we have Penn FC. North Carolina drops down a spot. Ottawa stays pat, and Penn FC moves up twice. They've had a really nice run of run of form, but really unlucky, I think, to not get a win, and some of those points might come back to haunt them come the end of the season.
Yeah, Penn actually is probably my pleasant surprise of the season. I thought they'd be with Toronto at that number 16 spot all season long, but at this rate, if they keep playing like they have this last month, I can actually see him snag that number 8 seed.
Yeah. I mean, it's really tight in the East. I think I looked at it last night. Pretty much like first place to 13th place, I think, is only separated by like 19 points. And really that's only because the teams in like first, second, and third are just way high up there. But it's a really tight race right in the middle again. Which has been the case for a while, and I think it's one of the best things about the league is just that everyone's really jam-packed. Speaking of which, 10, 9, and 8 in the East. This is where we had our biggest moves. 10th, Tampa Bay, 9th, Charleston, and 8th, New York Red Bull 2. Red Bull don't go anywhere, but Charleston and Tampa both drop 5 spots. Charleston was 4, Tampa Bay is 5. Now they're 9 and 10th as far as we're concerned. Pony, I talked about it at length with the help of Dan and Mark, and wow, I'm terrible. And Goose, sorry. Last night, but I mean, what are your thoughts on Tampa? Because that seems to be the story of the conference so far.
Yeah, no kidding. The team I think we had as consensus top team in the East before it starts decided to continue to be.
Picked them really high.
Yeah, I know. Who would be that dumb person?
Who would do that? That would be crazy, right?
I mean, they struggled on the road again, and then they decided to start selling and getting rid of really good players for this last month. They're finally starting to rebuild a bit, which is very good. And I think out of anyone who's in this bubble, I could see them being like New York was last season, where they sneak into the playoffs and just go on an absolute run.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, it would have to mean they win road games in the playoffs, so maybe not go on an absolute run, but they've been really weird. The talent is there, the players are there, and just nothing works. It's confusing to watch them play.
Yeah, and before, the biggest knock on them is just, they can't get it done on the road against anybody ever, and it doesn't matter who they are. And I mean, we still see that. They lost to Penn, which, I mean, is looking like a better loss than we initially would have thought. But regardless, that's a team in Tampa Bay where you look at just the depth that they have on paper, and they shouldn't have any problems against a team like Penn FC where they don't have, 18 guys deep of just starters everywhere. But now they're not really even getting the results at home. And I think everyone over there is getting a little frustrated. And I don't envy the position that Neil Collins is in. But I do think it's nice that they're, clearly not resting on their laurels and kind of throwing away the season, because they are bringing in guys like Kwadwo Poku, who I think is going to be a nightmare again in USL. And then Stefano Bonomo just signed for them this morning. So that'll be an interesting one to see for sure, because I think Bonomo can contribute a little more readily than Poku can, just because of, I think, how the seasons go for both those guys. But Poku is not a guy that, I'm looking forward to seeing on the last game of the season in Bethlehem for sure.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to track them. I could believe Tampa Bay finishes nowhere near the playoffs, and I could believe they sneak their way back up to maybe the number 6 seed, even if things work out the way I'm sure everyone is hoping they do at the management level.
Yeah. Charleston's an interesting one. They got a really good result. Was that Monday or Sunday against Toronto FC2, which might help steady the ship a little bit, but not a great run of form. And some strange coaching decisions, I think, from Anheuser, especially their last game against the Independents was a weird one. They were having a lot of success out wide, and then just kind of stopped doing that. So I think, any of these teams up here can get into the playoffs, and a lot of the ones that we'll talk about here in a second are already in playoff spots. But another team where if they can just kind of maintain and get some better results, they'll be okay.
Yeah, they've come back down to our expectations. I think with all their major losses in the offseason, we thought this is where they'd be, the fighting for the playoff bubble, as opposed to where they were last time we did these rankings, which is solidly within the playoffs. And again, they're going to be a fun team to watch. I could see them finishing outside, and I could see them sneaking in, and unlike Tampa, making a road win run.
There you go.
Like that. Tongue twister.
Yeah. Same idea with New York too. I think that's where we put them at, and like you said earlier, like if they get into the playoffs, they can be really dangerous. So their goal, I think, every year is just to get in and then go from there.
Yeah, it's the team you never know what you're going to get. You could completely steamroll them, and then 1 week later they'll blow out one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah. And then 7-6-5 Charlotte, Bethlehem, Indy 11. All three teams move up here. Charlotte 2 places from 9th, Bethlehem up 1 from 7, and Indy with the biggest positive jump in the East, maybe in general. Yeah, biggest positive move for us this month, up 5 places from 10 to 5.
Yeah, I think the biggest talking point's Indy, who has continued to really surprise as being a solid team. I know I've been going back and forth of, are they actually good, or are they just getting lucky against bad teams and somewhat holding their own against the good ones? But they're a solid second-tier team. I don't think you could ever say Indy has a chance to win the East, even in the playoffs, but they're dangerous and can knock someone off on a bad day.
Yeah. They're doing one of those things that I think, and even Bethlehem are doing it. So I think really Indy and Bethlehem are kind of in the same spot in that, if we're going to be honest, I don't think either of those teams has a chance of winning the league or even, making it to the conference finals, probably. They both very well could, but the one thing they're doing right now that really helps, especially around this time of year, is stealing results or getting results that you probably shouldn't get. And I think you look at Indy 11's last game or two, the one against Penn FC really stuck out, and they didn't give up. They got 2 goals, late, including a really nice free kick goal, and they got a draw out of it. And, for as much as constantly getting 3 points is nice, constantly getting positive results and getting anything out of some of these games is going to help you keep some momentum. And then when you get home, you can hopefully turn that into 3 points. And I think both those teams are doing that incredibly well right now. And this is a decent time of year to get hot. I think a June unbeaten streak is good. A July unbeaten streak is better. Obviously you'd really want to turn things on in August, but I don't think anyone can complain if they follow those 2 teams closely, for sure.
Right. I'm just hoping for a playoff situation where somehow, no matter where they finish, Indy draws Nashville and Bethlehem draws Cincinnati. Since both those teams are top 4, but really struggle against one team in particular.
Yeah.
I'd like to see them have to beat their nemesis to actually make a run.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Cincy just has to get past the ghost of the first round, or else I think a lot of their fan base is going to have a really bitter taste in their mouths when it comes to moving up next year. And Nashville, you know what? Starting to click like really well. Brandon Allen's been a really good addition for them, which more power to him. And that team looks like they are firmly going to be in that top 4 discussion for sure, especially if the team right above them, as far as their rankings goes, slips up some more.
Unless they play Indy.
That's true. Yeah.
For some reason, Indy has Nashville's number.
I can't explain it, but there's a team like that for everybody in the league. It's kind of funny. Parody and whatnot. 3-2-1. It's gonna be the same, I think, for us every month in terms of who's up here, unless Nashville really gets hot and one of these 3 teams falls off. However, there's been a change. Louisville went from 1 to 3, so they dropped 2 spots. Second place, Pittsburgh, they stay pat up 2 spots from third place to first place. Again, like I said, this is going to be, I think, the most consistent part of the rankings. But and for my money, I honestly think Pittsburgh is. They just don't give up goals, and like I really think that that's more crucial than the points right now. So I mean, yeah, since he's the best team in the East as it stands as far as points go, and I'm not terribly sure anyone can catch him. But I mean, if you gave me one team to pick in the East, this is going to sound funny coming from me, but it's Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I actually was kind of different from everyone else on this one, where I have Nashville 1. They look great as long as they don't play Indy right now. It's just that you got to have that, you have to have that just as the catch-22. But
yeah.
I think you could order any of these 4 teams in any order, and you could logically defend it. It's really hard to say one of these teams can't be a top team while another one can.
Right.
So I think it just comes down to your personal preference of, do you value offense? Do you value defense? Do you value being hard to beat? Do you value attendance? And all that factors into whatever you want to say.
Or do you value not being in this league next year?
That too.
Or do you value not being in this league the year following? Yeah, fair enough. Pony, before we move on to the West, any final thoughts on really anybody in the East?
No, it's really a top 4, a bottom 5, and a wide open middle group. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Penn in the playoffs, which I never in the million years thought I would say at the start of the
another expansion team in the playoffs. How about it?
I know. Those first seasons,
They're great. They're really great. Yeah. No, credit to him though, because I mean, we did say a lot, this is really ambitious, but we don't know enough about it, and we really don't think it's going to work out. And here we are, and they're at least a lot more competitive than that other team that used to play there that folded tragically.
Yeah, and I know I did my little projections. Actually shows Penn sneaking into this 8th place right now.
How about that?
So who knows?
Something about a time stopwatch joke. Western Conference time. Here we go. 17 Tulsa, 16 Seattle, 15 Rio Grande Valley. Tulsa and Seattle do not move. RGV drops down 2 spots. Same kind of idea in the East, I think, where there's just 2 teams, especially one team, that are just a lot worse than all the other ones.
Tulsa started to get some results the last couple of weeks, and I think they're nowhere near as bad as the bottom teams of the East. They have drawn a ton of games. And some of those they probably should have got 3 points from. Sure. But they just don't look good still. This is probably the most regressed team year for year.
Mm-hmm.
And Seattle just I don't really get it. They put up some horrible numbers this last month. I mean, if you give me a team that's going to go out and lose 4-0, it's probably Seattle's one of your top picks for that.
Yeah. And then RGV,
they're good at home, or at least hard to beat at home.
Yeah,
it's like Tampa, but not as good at home.
Right. Tampa Light, Tampa West,
exactly,
with less results. It's just so tricky for, especially this next group is a weird one, and even above them a little bit. 14 Oklahoma City, 13 Los Dos, 12 Las Vegas. My overarching feeling about this triplet is I would be very, dismayed if LA didn't have a 16-year-old that decided he was going to try to win the Golden Boot in USL this year.
Yeah, this is kind of the meh tier. the ones you look at and go like, oh yeah, I mean, any given week, these three teams have the potential to actually show up and beat someone good.
Right.
They also have the potential to not show up and look absolutely like a joke of a team. And it's just what happens week to week. At this point, Oklahoma City is starting to trend better to me. They're starting to looking good. They're probably not going to have any chance of making playoffs, but they could really spoil a lot of teams down the road. And Vegas is kind of going in the opposite direction. They started the season and we all go, oh wow, Vegas is actually not just a gimmick.
Yeah.
And it's kind of gone away from that. And LA just kind of coasts in the middle where every once in a while they'll play a 10-goal game for some weird reason. But you never know what you're going to get from those guys. I think they played their third or fourth 8+ goal game of the season last week.
Sounds right. In of this table. How do I want to do this? Let's do it this way. Tied for 10th, St. Louis and Fresno. Tied for 8th, Colorado Springs and San Antonio. I don't think a lot of us had San Antonio this low historically. Let me check real quick. But yeah, I mean, a really tight group, and there's not a whole lot separating this team. We certainly did not have them this low in March. We had them third. And I don't know for San Antonio if losing Tierpak was that big of a deal or what happened with them, but I think Fresno's been playing really good soccer for a month and a half now, just not getting results sometimes. And I think St. Louis, on their day is a very good team. I think all these teams on their day are very good teams. It just hasn't been their day very often.
Yeah, there's just been consistency with this group. Fresno, St. Louis, Colorado Springs, San Antonio, they're all, if they start clicking and they click on a consistent basis, they're going to jump past a couple teams ahead of them. But right now, St. Louis and Fresno are just way too inconsistent for me to really put them much more than where they are. I could see one of them snagging a low seed, but Colorado Springs, San Antonio, those are, again, Colorado Springs is a bit too inconsistent again. San Antonio, it's their defense. I think Ibiaga, I hope that's the person I'm thinking of, leaving on defense is more of a damage and far more than I think any of us thought they would. Because last year they won on defense, not on offense. It was basically, they were basically Lily Ball light, and except in the West. They said, we'll beat you 1-0, ha ha ha, and did that in a lot of games.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, that just the defense hasn't quite been there, even though there's still talent back there. It's not quite the same, and that's why they've dropped quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's really great to see Ibiaga doing well in New York City, and he very much earned that spot and has made his way into the starting 11. At least when I seem to watch New York City play for them, and has looked really well. So I mean, personally for him, that's a great move. But yeah, I think you're right. I don't think we necessarily thought that him being gone and then obviously Tierpak leaving in a weird kind of circumstance and the club not getting anything for him, I think really hurt as well. But yeah, I mean, it's a tight group as well. Next one up, it's 765 Reno, Portland, and Swope Park. Starting to separate ourselves into some of the higher tier upper echelon clubs. I think Portland's last month has been really damaging as far as our perspective of them. But this could very well hold through the rest of the season as I look at the calendar and see that it's only really early July. But I don't know. I think these are comfortably playoff teams. I really do, especially Swope Park. Maybe not so much Portland or maybe not so much Reno, but for right now, I think this is a decently fair viewpoint of these teams.
Yeah, Reno and Portland, I think, were teams we expect to probably make it. I know Portland's been slumping over the last month and have to keep doing that. They're going to keep dropping down on the chances of actually making playoffs. While Reno has been doing a lot better these last few months. They started the season pretty rough again like they did last year. And they're catching up again. They're starting to prove that they weren't just all their top players that got signed by the earthquakes and went away.
Right.
But I think once you hit Swope Park, those top five are all locked down. Their playoff teams and basically end of story at this point.
Mm.
It's just a matter of where they end up finishing. I'd be stunned if anyone in the top five for rankings now actually was not around come playoffs.
No, especially here. We'll just bring it up. 4 Orange County, 3 Sacramento Republic, 2 Phoenix, 1 Monarchs SLC. 1 and 2 were just set, I think, at this point. Especially 1, just because of the point differentials. But yeah, same kind of deal with the East. With our rankings from last month, Sacramento Republic moved up 1 spot. Orange County to move up twice to get into that top 4, but I can't really see this changing a whole lot either. Or definitely, I don't think any of these teams miss out on the playoffs, and I think this is where they all end up. Maybe Sacramento Republic and Orange County swap places once or twice, or maybe SPR catches up to Orange County. But this is pretty locked in, I would imagine. I say that now, and we'll see what happens. But you'd be a little strange to pick any other team besides SLC in first, and I think Phoenix is pretty much a clear-cut second.
Yeah, those two teams, they look so much better than everyone else, even though they occasionally drop games and points. Week in, week out, they are, I think, they're very, very clear 1 and 2 in the West. And I think unless you're a major fan of Sacramento, Orange County, or Swope Park, you can't argue anyone else in that top 2.
Yeah. And I think Sacramento is a very strong 3. And I would very much favor them in their matchup against, Portland, Reno, or even San Antonio, or Colorado Springs, or Fresno, or St. Louis. But I don't see how they have the quality to break into that top 2. Really.
Yeah, and Sacramento has come back to ground this last couple months. They started out the season just unbelievable, to kind of exceed the expectations of anybody in Sacramento.
Yep.
And now they're kind of dropped back in the, okay, they're an above average, probably playoff team form. They did just pick up Clemente today, who left the team to sign with the LA Galaxy main team. Then they departed ways, and he signed with Sacramento today. So it'll be interesting to see how that helps the team.
Yeah.
Because he is, I mean, if he's playing where he should be playing, he's one of the top few players in the USL at his spot. That's a big get.
And they get that kind of, boost that you always do when you sign a guy. And it's a little weird because it's outside of the window, right? For America? So. Yeah, just outside. I mean, obviously, if he's out of contract, you can do whatever you want. But it's nice to take kind of that mid-season, signing bump a little early, and add on top of that, he's a very good player. That'll help him out. Again, I don't think that's enough to get him into the top 2, but I really don't think they're going to move much at all, just based off of anything I've seen. Wrapping it up, let's talk about the overall top 10. Suppose we'll talk about the teams that dropped out first, because this is always interesting, because we have a lot of newcomers this week, matter of fact. Portland Timbers 2, Charleston Battery, and Tampa Bay Rowdies all dropped. Portland was 6, Charleston was 7, Tampa was 8. I think we touched on it for all 3 teams. I think it's just a consistency thing, and the last month hasn't been very kind, and there's some troubling signs for all 3. I don't know. But Tampa at 8 was always in a little bit of trouble, I think.
Yeah, I think Tampa, we've still been trying to buy into the preseason hype, so we're kind of keeping them around for a while and just slowly pushing them down the ratings.
Yeah.
And then Portland and Charleston, we never really thought would be a top 10 team. They got really, really hot. We said these guys might be for real, and then they cooled down and okay, yeah, we were right. They were not a top 10 team, and kind of everything leveled out there.
And the other thing too, I think for us, as far as thinking about Tampa went, is you can kind of chalk a lot of that up to, their road form is just really bad, and they just brought in a new coach, and it'll take a little bit of time for Neil, obviously, to get I don't know, comfortable as a coach, obviously, and they haven't really leveled out. And as a result, they drop out of our top 10. Do I think they're a bad team or anything like that? No, not in the slightest. Do I think they're a team that's in a very strange spot, and if Louisville isn't careful, they might fall into the same sort of trap? Yeah, for sure. But again, I don't think they're done by any stretch of the imagination. If we're at this point and it's the end of August or the middle of August, they might be in some trouble. But right now, in early July, without seeing anyone kick a ball this month, pretty much, I'm not panicking about Tampa right now, or Louisville for that matter.
Yeah, I completely believe we at the end of the season we see Tampa in the playoffs and go, wow, that's a really scary team to see in the first round for whoever happened to draw them. Same time, I could see Tampa finishing 9th, 10th, and we go, wow, was this the biggest flop of the entire season? It's just a matter of what happens for this next month or so, because they're putting all their cards on the table, making all the signs they can.
Yeah.
And we're going to see if it paid off or if Tampa Bay turns into one of those teams where at the end of the year, just go, what happened?
Yeah. Or maybe, a little bit of that, hey, are those desperation signings? And at the end of the year we go, maybe, yeah. And it is weird because they're, Dan from Unused Subs has said multiple times that their window's pretty tight right now. And they got to be trying to get a little bit younger, and the guys that they brought in are younger, which is nice. But if you don't get results, it doesn't matter a whole lot. Our top 10, 10, 9, 8. Did Portland make the top 10, or are they in 11th?
Portland got points, but they're out of the top 10.
Okay. Gotcha. So 10, Reno, 9, Indy, 8.
Reno and Indy also got points out of the top 10.
Oh, what are you doing? Why'd you do this to me?
For information. Yeah. Indy, Reno, Portland all at least got points from some of us, but none of them actually had enough points to make the top 10. So technically they're 11, 12, and 13, but it's a top 10 list, so we don't care about them as much.
Fair. Pony, take over this part because I'm making a meal of it.
Okay, so I'll jump into 10th, which barely got over their other teams who just missed out, is Bethlehem, who got on it purely on the back of Ryan.
Yeah, full disclosure, I do not have them in the top 10. Sorry, guys, at the club. I don't have you in the top 10. I apologize. Yeah, Ryan has them in 8th, which was enough, apparently, which is cool. So I appreciate it. There's no denying that they're a good team and that they give headaches to a lot of other teams, I think, just based off of their pace and their youth alone. Top 10, generous.
I mean, it's not the worst in the world. Like, they're near the top 10. If they're not in it, there are a few spots out. They're a very good team. They have a lot of talent, and I could see them being a major threat come playoffs. They're one of those teams you just don't want to see, because at any given day, they could show up and they could hang with the top teams. I think 2 times, over the last few years, they've been a major thorn in Cincinnati's side, for instance. If they end up wherever Cincinnati draws, that's going to be a very ugly draw for Cincinnati.
Yeah, and last year we were really upset we didn't draw Tampa. Actually, we really wanted to crack at those guys. So, yeah, it's one of those things where for a lot of the talk that we have of the non-MLS2 sides not being able to get up for some of those games against MLS2 sides, that might be a bit of a downfall in the playoffs because you get one chance, and that's it.
Yep. Okay, so moving on, it's really close. 9, 8, 7 is very equal, but 9 is Swope Park and 7 is the Sacramento Orange County draw.
Yeah.
And I think that's about right. These are teams who are kind of in the tail end of that top 10 group who are, I don't think any of us think, they're actually all West teams, so I don't think any of us really think they're going to make a huge run in the West, but we've seen Swope Park twice now from the 4 seed win the West in back-to-back seasons. So it proves anything is possible, and these 3 teams are good enough that if they start clicking come playoffs, they could take down Phoenix, they could take down the Monarchs, and they could take down the rest of the West.
Yeah. That and just to point it out, Orange County, Swope Park, and Bethlehem were not in the top 10 last month. So a bunch of newcomers. I think you're right. I don't think we expect SPR and Orange County and Sacramento to go super deep, but that's not because, like, I think if you put them in the Eastern Conference, or if you, I don't know, like eliminated the conference playoff seeding, there might be a easier case to make for them going on like a really deep run. But right now, I just can't really be convinced. Even though it's one game and there's a bigger chance of, an anomaly, I guess I'll call it. I don't think I can see, maybe Sacramento, but not Orange County right now, and not Swope Park right now, beating um, either SLC or Phoenix.
Yeah, I could see any of these teams really having that talent. I mean, Orange County looks so good some weeks. Same with Swope Park, and let's not forget, Swope Park has been the 4 seed for the last 2 years. Won the West from the 4 seed both years with never playing on the road. So it's probably going to happen again this year. They're going to get the 4th seed. There's going to be upsets all around. They're never going to have to play on the road, and they'll win the West again just because that's what they like to do. But after that, I guess we move up to it'd be the 6 and 5. 6 is Nashville and 5 is Louisville for us.
Yeah. Nashville moves up from 10 to 6. Which, I mean, like we've said multiple times tonight, and even previous, it's really clicking for him right now, which is dangerous, because that's a very good team, and honestly, credit to their head coach Gary Smith for being a guy that's been in the U.S. system before and has had success. And it looks like he knows what he wants out of his team, and they're executing that game plan really well. To the point where you could tell me, hey, they could win the East, and I wouldn't be stunned. I wouldn't, if you told me that in March or April, I'd be like, nah, maybe not. But now I'd be like, yeah, that's fair. I'd be a little bit surprised, but it wouldn't be, the biggest shock of my life.
Yeah, I caught a ton of flack preseason for saying, yeah, Nashville's the number 3 team in the East. And I think it's actually panning out, right? I actually have them as 1 right now, but like I said, that 1 through 4 is basically a tie as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But Nashville Cincinnati this weekend could probably be one of the single best games of the entire year. So if you're free and you're not watching that game, there's a problem there. And if you're busy, fake being sick.
Yeah, no, definitely one. And there's honestly probably a game or two, especially when you get later into the season, where you go, that's a huge playoff implications game. Those 6-point swings and what have you. But man, that's one to watch for sure. For sure.
Yeah, then Louisville has just been on a slide. We'll see if they could correct it. I mean, it's injuries, coach change. I guess I have to say they're admirable to still be where they are on the table. I think if most teams suffered that many injuries and lost their coach, they'd be raising the white flag right about now.
Yeah. If Louisville fielded a whole bench every week, would we be as concerned as we are about them now?
I think we'd be scared, but I mean, they're still a top 4 team. I don't think anyone's really concerned they're going to drop into that Indy Bethlehem next tier.
Mm.
So moving up, the next 2 teams to keep things a little bit suspenseful, I guess. Phoenix in 4th and Pittsburgh in 3rd. Both those teams they're pretty much neck and neck.
I really want to see them play each other, which probably won't happen. But that's just a really interesting dynamic as far as 2 teams go, both in terms of what they are and what they stand for from like an organizational standpoint, as well as the product I think they put out in the field. I don't know.
And they're both in really good form. They're both playing well. I think they adopt different tactics, as Phoenix is more of a classical, hey, we're going to come out and beat you type team. Oh, Pittsburgh is that we're not going to lose. Good luck winning setup.
Right.
And you could say that's going to cost them points in the regular season because they're going to draw a lot of games. People go, why is Pittsburgh drawing this team? They should beat them. Why are they drawing this team? They should beat them. Then you look and say, oh, Pittsburgh's lost 1 game all year. So it's a matter of what you like and what you think can be sustainable in a playoff run. But these two teams are just they're so good, and they're fun to watch play for different reasons entirely.
Yeah.
And I mean, watch them if you can, root for them if you can, and the later these guys last in the season, before they go in the playoffs, the better USL is, because not only are they fun teams, they're well run, and that's also a benefit.
Oh yeah. Pittsburgh are great because they are the I'll make a reference and then I'll explain it. They're the Randall from Monsters Inc. of USL.
Does that need explaining?
I'm going to. In that they're chameleons and that they can kind of blend in everywhere, and it's not so much about, I think you hear it from a lot of coaches, oh well, we're just going to come out and play our game better than they're going to play their game. Pittsburgh, kind of. I mean, there is Lily Ball. Like, if they didn't have a play style, we wouldn't have a whole play style dedicated to their coach and the word ball after it. But they're very good at sitting back and, I don't know, kind of daring another team to play their style and going, yeah, we can do that too. But like, you're not going to beat us with it.
Yeah, to make a World Cup reference, think like Sweden and Croatia.
Yeah. It's
the team who just goes, yeah, you'll mess up eventually. We'll take control of you, and ha, you lose.
Right. Yeah. It's making mistakes for sure. And to Pittsburgh credit, they're a lot more patient than I think any other team would be in terms of waiting for mistakes to happen. And they're also a lot better than a lot of teams at countering when that does happen. Because it's one thing, I think, if you play the counter, for another thing if you play that counter for what feels like 20 and you make it count every time you get up the field. So,
there's still the abnormality going on in Pittsburgh right now where they have a player tied for third in the Golden Boot race.
Yeah, that needs to stop.
I think Willie's just going to bench him for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Let it get out of hand.
Like hit it with like a lower body injury kind of vibe. He's not, he's not available or whatever, and just kind of send him on a vacation somewhere,
Nico Brett has the flu for the next month.
Yeah. Good. Pony, unveil the top two if you kindly.
Okay, top two in some order. It's going to be Cincinnati and the Monarchs. And I guess we have no Dremel graphics. If whoever's editing this has one, insert here.
Mike, there you
go. Number two is Cincinnati, and number one was a unanimous first for the Monarchs.
Yep.
And I think no one could really say the Monarchs shouldn't be first. If anyone really honestly thinks they're not first,
I would love to hear
about it. Yeah, I'd love to hear that argument.
That would be really interesting, because I don't. And again, like, they're in the weaker, quote unquote, of the two conferences, and then I think the West is a lot more clear as to like, yep, this is the number one team. But I still don't think that that's any reason that they just shouldn't be number one in the league.
Yeah, especially at home. I mean, you look at it right now, they have their home record is 7 wins and 1 draw. And they're going to have the top seed in the West. It'll take probably someone handing them their first or second road loss to send them home before anything. I mean, they'll have home field all the way through the playoffs at this rate. So good luck, rest of league.
And, Cincy at 2, I think it's a depth thing for them more than anything else, maybe.
Yeah, and for how different our rankings are, the difference between Cincinnati second and Phoenix and fourth is the same as Phoenix down is actually more. It's a pretty close drop right there. The first few teams are just right next to each other. They could have taken someone on if we did this poll 2 days earlier, 2 days later, it easily could be Pittsburgh or Phoenix ahead of Cincinnati here.
Yeah, probably.
And that's honestly about right. Those teams are all right there. I mean, I still say Nashville is better than everyone else is saying, but I've already beat on that drum a little bit today.
Fair enough. Yeah, Pony, before we get out of here, any thoughts, opinions, hot takes, attendance numbers you want to throw out?
Not much. I'm trying to mix USL with watching the World Cup. So my
Yeah.
morning's been waking up, watching half a game, going to work, and listening to the other half.
Do you think people will love this? Do you think football's coming home? Is that?
Oh, England's going to England it pretty badly later this tournament.
Yeah.
I thought they're going to England it bad today. So
they certainly gave themselves but that was they were lulling you into a false sense of quote unquote security, and that I even said to Kurt, I was like, you know what, here we go, it's going to go to penalties, because once they go to extra time in the World Cup, you're like, this is just a fun 30-minute exercise before we get to penalties. And I went, England's going to England it, and they're going to go out on penalties because that's just how the world works, and they did not.
yeah, I was absolutely watching that game on my phone while going through online training today at work.
Do we have to edit that out just in case?
No, I'm pretty sure my boss is also doing the same thing. So,
oh, fair enough. All right, never mind. Then we're good. If it was like I was watching a random Seattle Tulsa game at work, then I think you'd have some problems. Also, no one would probably be there, but that's neither here nor there.
sure.
Yeah. So if you guys disagree with us and you, for whatever reason, want to spew your vitriol, feel free to get in touch at Phil Grooms. It's with 2 L's and 2 O's on Twitter is where you can funnel your negative comments. No, but actually, at the USL show works just fine. All of us will see it that way, which would be exciting. Or if you'd like to harass Pony more than Cincinnati fans already do, or if you just don't like that, I don't know, we call him Pony, at Iron Pony Chef is where you can find him. If you want to do it on like another larger scale, at Blurbs and Domina also works. But that's going to be less relevant. So, take your pick. I myself at Villela V as in Victor ILLELLA BSFC. But like I said, at the USL show, feel free to hit us up on the Twitters there. Check us out, uslshow.com. Take a look at our Patreon. Say hi to DK, who actually isn't in the country right now, but that's cool. Over at Soccer Loco, click that link. Get anything you could possibly desire, England shirt, or maybe an England shirt that just says "It's coming home" on the back. Who knows? So do that. And yeah, we'll talk to you guys next week.
Ooh.
Cool.
Oh, that's a good quick recap.
Mike, effect, or if you want to make a drum roll effect, you should put a drum roll effect in. Happy when I play this back and you put in a really random, non-related sound effect.
Or you could just do it, just do your own drum sound effect. This.
Is that a man rolling his arms? Anyway, Pony, I don't know where everyone fucking went this week.
Yeah, sad. I was gone all weekend at the family reunion.
That's fair. Man, remember?
I'm not related to Ryan too, unfortunately. Fun. I was hoping I might be, but
yeah. Oh well. It worked out. We did it.
Yeah, like I said, once everyone gets back, we could do a draft recap at some point.
Oh, for sure, we have
That'd
to.
Be good
I don't think any of us have done that in like 4 months, and it's going terrible.
Yeah, I mean, it could be going worse. You could have had your 3 teams you picked. First 3 teams be Tampa, Indy, and St. Louis.
It was last night when Mark Turner said that the last time he was on the USL show, he had Oklahoma City winning the league.
Yeah, I had him doing really good last year. I learned my lesson, but
I literally was like, "How much did they pay you to do that?" Because man, that's in a world full of hot takes. That is a hot take.
I mean, I think we actually had him high on our lists. Let's see, I'm gonna put the preseason ranking before anybody. Before there's a single
we had him 5th in March. Wow.
Yeah.
What happened?
Oklahoma City did. They went on one of the longest losing streaks in league history.
An Eastern Conference team in like the top 5. Oh no, just kidding. Sorry. Ooh, yeah, man. I mean, some of those top 10 rankings look really bad. That's fun.
I mean, there's not too many completely. I mean, OKC was 5th in the West. That's not good. Tampa winning, North Carolina being anything apart from bad. It could have been worse. I mean,
yeah,
it could have been. We're not that dumb.
We're not. That's I like being not that
dumb.
Anyway, getting that.